variability. And it gives you a nervous system balance. So I was doing 5 minutes of M-wave guided breathing, and that would at least set my nervous system to kind of pull some of the surrounding stuff around me out enough that I could think about moving boxes and not get hurt.
Where do you get an M-wave? Right?
Good question.
You can get them on Amazon.
But don't you have one on your phone too?
Oh yeah,
Is it an app?
It is. It's a let's see. It is the.
For the folks who don't know, explain the whole M-wave on the app, how it works.
Okay, so yeah, it's called Inner Balance. So if you go to your app store and download Inner Balance by HeartMath, you have to buy a converter to go from 5-pin to what's that? The 16 or 32 pin is the normal.
I think 32.
iPad 32.
Yeah.
And then a sensor. And honestly, I'll truthfully, I've tried it on the iPhone, and the sensor, the adapter between the 5-pin and the 32-pin, until they come out with a 5-pin direct sensor, I don't think it's worth it on the iPhone. I think it's worth buying the actual small M-Wave unit.
Which I remember you just ordered on Amazon. You've had that a while, right?
Exactly.
It was on Amazon, yeah.
And so what it is so heart rate variability, what that means is you have your heart gives out a pulse, right? But when we measure pulse, we measure it in beats per minute. So if you're going to 60 beats per minute, that pulse is actually measured as an average. But each beat is actually occurring at a different space and time, and so there's a different space or time difference between each beat. So it might not it's not going to be like a metronome. So if your heart beats at 60 beats per minute, it doesn't beat 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a very metronome-based, predictable beat pattern where each beat is exactly spaced out, one beat apart, right? Like one second apart. Well, that's not the way the heart works, or it's not the way the heart should work. There should be variability between the timing of when those beats happen. So it might be 1 and boom, 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 boom. It should actually space out differently. And so what heart rate variability monitors do is they measure how much variability is between those beats, which means that what is in 1 minute's time, are your heartbeats very varied in spacing, or are they very constant? And that gives us a really good indicator of the state of stress response in the brain, because it's the vagus nerve, which is actually a nerve that goes from the brain down to the heart, that signals the monitoring, basically the modulation of this heartbeat. So by syncing your breathing to the spaces between and how the spaces between your heart rate beats change, you can actually create a much greater state of evenness, which is called coherence. So you can achieve what would possibly take an hour of meditation to accomplish in a matter of basically like 10 minutes. So it's sort of the hacking the meditation sort of perspective. It's kind of taking what is valuable about breathing, slow progressive breathing, and influencing the nervous system parasympathetically, and using a device to kind of put you in touch with your inner system, right? So we always talk about that awareness. Well, when you're not aware of your breathing, you have to first settle yourself out, become aware, then you have to match your breathing, train your breathing, and you have to get into this loop to be able to control the nervous system and really gain the benefits of the meditation. And I still do regular meditation because I think that whole process of cultivating, learning to feel that from within is hugely beneficial. But the M-Wave was in a time that's very busy, gave me the ability to get to what was happening inside of me much faster.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. It's really cool that there's technology that allows us to do all these things. It allows us to track all these things. I think it's freaking awesome.
Yeah, just the tools. Yeah. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's so hard to do this stuff on your own. You need like a little guidance.
Right, and
Really.
it makes it so simple because all it is it looks like a pager, and
Yeah.
it's just a light that tracks up and down this pager, and you breathe in as the light goes up, and then you breathe out as the light goes down.
That's very cool.
And all it's doing is you have a sensor. You either put your thumb on this pager-looking device, and it measures your heart rate, and then it measures the variability between the beats, so your heart rate variability, or it has an ear clip, like one of the heart monitor ear clips, and it just measures your heart rate variability and instructs you to breathe with this light that matches it up with it. So I would do that for 5 minutes a day to clear my mind so that I could move well. And then kind of where you're headed with the decreasing the inflammation overall, I actually just pushed all things that would decrease inflammation. I stayed away from all anything that was suspect.
Like food-wise, you mean? Or?
Food-wise, I stayed away from gluten, which I stay away from wheat. I even stayed away from grains. Like did I do much rice even during that time?
I mean, occasionally.
Occasionally, but
not too much.
I pretty much stayed away from.
So just veggies, meat.
I was doing squash. I mean, I'm still doing carbs. I do think that brings up a really good point. You're going to find in this time of stress, you actually need some more carbohydrates.
I have been eating a lot more. I've been eating a lot more sweet potatoes, squash, a lot of spaghetti squash.
Because the pulling the carbs out is gonna increase the sympathetic nervous system, which is great if you need focus. But if you're already running so high, you're in the other way. You actually need to pull it back. So I went from being very almost keto at times, like very almost zero carb, trying to do almost an intermittent fast where I was eating very fat protein during the day and then doing some carbs at night, to actually having to add carbs into my morning meal. So you may find that you need to add some sweet potatoes, some other squashes, even some rice, into maybe some fruit, some low glycemic fruit into that morning meal, because you're going to need to control your cortisol a little bit.
That makes sense. And that's actually really important to note, is that even your mind can affect your entire physiology, and it can affect the absorption of the nutrients that you consume. So it becomes doubly important when you are stressed out to get into these things. And that's something important that I've realized in this time. I've actually experienced it. Like, I understood it conceptually, and I would tell my clients about it, and I would see them go through it, and they felt better. But then to actually experience it, now I have a better appreciation of like what is actually going on.
And you usually can't sleep either, because you're like so stressed out. Your mind's going a million directions.
So anyway, I think it's really cool that there's technology out there to help you, especially when your mind is clouded. And it's funny, Laura and I were talking about this before you came back from Whole Foods. We were walking to the mailbox, and I was telling her, I was like, man, when I was trying to record the short musing yesterday, because I was so stressed with everything else going on, I'm like, why did it cut off? Because it cut off early when it shouldn't have cut off. And I was freaking out. I was like, how do I edit this out? Like, what do I do? And I was talking to Judith, my girlfriend. I'm like, man, it's like the end of the world. I can't get this freaking thing to edit. And she was like, calm down. It's okay. You can just find an app, and you can easily edit that out. And so I was talking to Lauren, and I was like, I wonder if we were able to catch ourselves in this freak out moment, and we were able to clear our mind in that moment, would we be able to allow our mind, allow ourselves, our entire physiology, the capability, the capacity to actually accept a new opportunity, or to bring in something that could be better, to bring in something that we could possibly benefit from more so than this cutting out instance. Like, I have to edit this out. And I could extend this into just life in general. If something doesn't work out in our favor, whatever, maybe, we got fired from our job, like we were talking about, you getting fired from that corporate job, and now it's like the biggest blessing ever. And I wonder, in that instance, we're like, oh fuck, I lost my job. This sucks.
Right.
But then you were like, well, what's on the other side of this?
Mm-hmm. It's hard, to free your mind space and open yourself up.
To change your entire physiology.
Right.
I mean, you'd have to, of course, there are physical things you can do to change your mind, and then there's things you can do internally to change your physiology. But I think that's a fascinating concept.
Well, it's not just a concept, but it's true.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the truth that's been written all the way back in into Proverbs in the Bible, and just about being able to see your journey as not your journey, as the steps that you take are not always controllable, but what you do beyond them is, right? So things cutting, right? So things cutting out is not about the cutout; it's just about what's the next step forward and where that leads you. I do think that as you're going through really stressful times, there are things you can do to make sure that your physical and hormonal and electrical wellness, your nervous system, is settled as best as possible, so that you can then see those things. Because I think if you're so physiologically clouded and so biologically overrun, it's really tough to be open to that, and I think that settling out your nervous system with some morning 5 minutes of breathing, even doing some guided tracks. There's Rodney Yee has a great CD that has just individual tracks for breathing.
There's a ton online you can get.
Yeah,
and they're free.
Absolutely.
And you can choose how much time you can allot to it. Maybe it is only 5 minutes. Maybe it's a little longer, but you can pick that. And there's so much available.
And I think kind of clearing that out so that you can then move right, and then I think accounting for your higher cortisol load, you're going to need small amounts of carbohydrates, I think, spaced through the day. And I think it's that there's like a dark side of keto, which I think we should eventually, I think we should talk about maybe in another episode. But
carbohydrates are very confusing. No joke, like how much you need, how much you should be getting. Like, and there's the hatred. I mean, there's a lot. It's a whole other episode.
I've been in that camp, so I've seen both sides of it. But I definitely think that using them as almost supplemental. I think you should use them as a hormonal supplement. Use berries, use maybe half an apple, use some sweet potato, use some...
I like gluten-free oats.
Some gluten-free oats, some I don't respond as well to the oats.
Yeah, I mean, you have to find what works for you, and you'll be able to tell just like how your body responds.
I think women respond really well to oats that I've seen in girls that I've
women love
trained.
Oatmeal.
Oops.
So...
But
That's
a lot.
True story.
See?
A little too much. But
that's what you said to me the other day. You're like, did you eat the entire thing of oats? Because I know it wasn't me.
Yeah.
We ordered a really big bag from Amazon.
But just finding those that are safe for you, and then I would actually take small, almost like supplements. Like you're almost taking 10 grams at a time. And I think it'll help you just curb, as the cortisol spikes, you're just curbing that off with the carbohydrate, but not so much that it's changing your insulin response, which is then going to change you back to sympathetic anyway, right?
Yeah.
So it's like this, how do I use them? But then you're modulating your hormones, you're modulating your nervous system with the M wave, and then you're keeping your movement healthy through, you got to get at least one really heavy workout in two. Really two. You probably will go down to like 2 full body workouts, like a push-pull or something like that, per week, and then you'll be doing maybe 2 smaller like body weight workouts a week, and then you'll be doing just probably mobility as you're walking around.
Yeah.
But